haven't really had much of a chance to talk about it on my channel, but I absolutely love Overwatch. And I haven't really been playing it all that long. Shout outs to my brother, the Painmaster98 here on YouTube, who bought the game for me late last year as an early Christmas present. And just like Roadhog's victims, I've been hooked. I've talked about Team Fortress 2 before, and I mentioned that one of the reasons that I love that game so much is because of the diverse cast of characters, but I didn't realise how good it could get until I played Overwatch. All of the countdowns I do are obviously subjective, but that goes double for this list because, well, everyone's going to have their preferences and what roles they like to play. Personally, in most games I play, I like to be a jack of all trades, so I've had more than my fair share with all of the heroes, and I've got to say, there isn't a hero I don't like. Even though the 28th hero on this list is at the bottom, I still do like them. I'm not a pro at Overwatch or anything, you may have guessed that from my bronze status. I'm not the most well versed in the meta, competitive comps or anything like that. I'm just a guy who loves playing Overwatch. One final note before we get into the list, I recorded most of the gameplay footage a while ago, so it is from an older version. But all of my thoughts on the heroes are based on how they are currently. So let's begin. GLHF.
I didn't ask for your opinion.
What's funny about Doomfist is that the first time I tried him out, I was absolutely beast. I got like a 15 kill streak, no deaths and play of the game. And ever since that wonderful day, I don't think I've ever got a kill as him ever again. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but I just don't really have many good games when I play as Doomfist. I almost always miss with his rocket punch attack, and then I'm just a sitting duck waiting to be destroyed by what feels like 6 Bastions and 12 Widowmakers. I never really quite understood how to combo his abilities together well, or how to really use them at all. Granted, I haven't looked it up and maybe I should, but I never feel a drive to actually pick Doomfist. Sometimes I do well as him when I play mystery heroes, and I've got to admit, it does feel good to actually play a good round as Doomfist, but a majority of the time I feel like I could be playing as someone better. If the enemy team has really locked down an objective, I don't really know how to jump in and be useful, seeing as Doomfist is only really good at close range. I still like playing as him every now and again, but he is definitely my least picked hero.
Meteor strike! You're not the winner. Stay on field. No monkey business.
And next we have my least picked tank, Winston. When you come against a good Winston, you're in hella trouble. When you come against me as Winston, you're usually pretty safe. Like Doomfist, Winston can only really deal damage if he gets up close. Sure, that makes sense for a tank, I get that. But his Tesla cannon is pretty weak. What I usually end up doing is jumping in and either getting completely mashed by the enemy team, or doing very little damage and jumping out again. It doesn't always happen though. I do get those games where I jump right in, pop up the barrier projector, pick off one guy, jump out, get healed, jump back in, pick off another player. His ult, to me, feels a little underwhelming too, and I usually end up just losing track of the opponents that I'm trying to attack. But it does feel pretty good when you knock people down holes or pin them in a corner. It doesn't always happen, but I do sometimes have a lot of fun with Winston, more often than I do with Doomfist, so that's why he's not in last place.
Hard work pays off.
The Swedish engineer himself, Torbjrn. In any media, I've never really been a big fan of dwarf type characters. The same goes with builder characters, so my personal bias did play a part in landing Torbjrn this low on the list. If you can't find an opportunity to lay down a turret, you're not completely useless, but you are losing a lot of DPS. When I get a turret in the right spot though, and my team has it set up so that the enemy team can't come close to it, I can hear the frustration of the enemy team even when they have their mics muted. It does feel really good to rack up kills with the turret, and I do like his little support ability armor pack. But actually trying to fight as Torbjrn himself just feels like luck when it comes to landing hits. Getting headshots with Torbjrn though, that's the stuff.
Let me show you how it's done.
I guess for the most part I'm just not really into heroes who are almost purely melee based. However, Reinhardt ends up higher than Doomfist because smacking dudes around isn't all he's good for. That's thanks to his humongous shield. Being able to move around with a giant shield is incredibly effective, especially when you're attacking the payload. It's something I both like and dislike when playing him. I find that a lot of the time I'm just chilling on the payload. I personally find it hard to determine when it's a good time to swing his hammer around or when it's a good time to use his charge ability. It kinda sucks to miss it, but when you manage to pin someone to a wall, yeah, it feels pretty good. If you want to completely tear down the enemy team, including their shields and tanks, play Bastion. If you get a good setup where you're backed up by a Reinhardt or an ERISA, Bastion can be a serious threat. I love ripping an enemy's shield to shreds. If used correctly, Bastion can have one of the highest DPSs in the game, and I feel like I can play Bastion pretty well. My problem with him is that he really feels like a one-trick pony. He's a manual turret, and that's about it. Sure, he's a little mobile and you can do some damage with his standard gun, but it's just not as effective as his turret form. And if you come against an enemy team with a good Genji, Hanzo or Widowmaker, it can really give Bastion a hard time. I enjoy his tank ult when I do well with it, but I swear my aiming with it has gotten worse over time.
The doctor is in.
I'm sure Mercy is many people's favourite hero, and that's all good with me. Her healing output is pretty insane and her mobility is crazy good. She's like a copy of the medic from Team Fortress 2, but she's even better because when she's not healing you can boost your teammates' damage output. Not only that, but her resurrection ability might be the best in the game. She always feels like a solid pick, and whenever I play with her I'm pretty much getting good healing every time. I think she's the undisputed best at healing in the game, but that's why I don't like her as much as the other support heroes. She can't really do multitasking like the other supports. Her damage just isn't there, and going through games with 0 eliminations isn't really my style. I do well with her when I play her and I do have fun, but my go-to support character, she is not.
Heroes never die.
A steady blade balances the soul.
So, I'm not really that good at playing Genji and I don't know how to play him that well, but I still have quite a bit of fun when I play as him. Seeing as his standard weapon isn't the most powerful, it's pretty slow and fairly hard to aim, Genji feels like he relies more on his abilities and his mobility. It's a lot of fun just running around as Genji, double jumping, climbing and swift striking around the maps, dodging all of your enemy attacks and then firing them back at people. There's so many cool things you can do with Genji's deflect ability, like headshotting Widowmaker with her own bullet, countering McCree's flashbang or Deadeye, or completely tearing down a Bastion. It also just feels good to get up close and personal and throw some fan of blades at tanks. And he's the only hero with a sword, you gotta love that. Genji's only really this low because I don't feel great when I'm doing bad as him and not contributing that much, but when I am, I like him quite a bit.
I live for a good fight.
I'm much better at playing Fara than I am Genji. Even without her ultimate, her AoE damage potential is pretty amazing. It's hard to aim as her to get in some direct hits, but even her splash damage does quite a lot. When the enemy is cramped together, it's so much fun to jump jet into the air and grab some multi-kills. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet is how good it feels in Overwatch to knock your opponents off edges or into holes, and Fara has the potential to do this. It can be quite hard, but it is doable. Her ult is extremely deadly if used well. You can sneak behind the enemy team and completely destroy them. If you use it wrongly though, you're a complete sitting duck to a Widowmaker, Bastion or pretty much anyone. Many of my Fara ults result in death. I don't really pick Fara all that much, probably for the same reasons why I don't pick Bastion that much. I'm good as them, but they're just not as interesting to me as characters higher up on the list.
Justice reigns forever.
I'm back in black.
An up close and personal hero, but he's not melee based. Reaper's Hellfire shotguns can cause some serious damage from short range, especially if you hit the head. Reaper gives Bastion a run for his money when it comes down to dispatching foes speedily. Reaper's one of those heroes that I didn't really like at first because it felt like there wasn't much to him apart from getting up close and shooting dudes in the face. And while that's not too far from the truth, Reaper does have one important ability to contribute to his playstyle: Wraith Form. Now when I play Reaper, I like to flank my opponents, pop some shells hoping to kill as many people as I can, and then Wraith Form the heck out of there. Rinse and repeat. You can do some serious damage as Reaper and be a huge nuisance to the enemy team. It is great, but for me, getting hits in does require a bit of luck. His ult can absolutely decimate an enemy team if they're distracted, and I don't think he feels quite as vulnerable as Fara. Yeah, that's Reaper, aka Gabriel Reyes. A cool hero, I like him.
I have this under control.
Overwatch's poster child, Tracer. I play her pretty similarly to Reaper, flank the enemy, get in some shots, and when I notice I'm doing pretty crap, I use her recall ability and bow. Unlike Reaper though, I find it much easier to get straight back into the fight and finish them off if I left them on low health with her blink ability. I sometimes save her recall ability altogether for a time when I need to regain health, and just rely on blink since it recharges at a nice steady speed. I've got to say, I'm not the biggest fan of her pea-shooter pulse pistols, and sometimes find it pretty hard to aim unless I'm really close up. But it does feel great to blink around to an enemy Zenyatta or Ana, and pop in a bunch of headshots to take them down so quickly. Reaper's more of a get in, get out, but Tracer is more fun to play when you're constantly moving around. Enemy Tracers can be a huge annoyance, and it's fun to be that annoyance for your team.
You've got what's coming.
Give yourself to the rhythm.
Lucio's healing is much more passive than most other support heroes. As long as you're hanging around, you'll be helping out your team, likely making him one of the best heroes for newcomers. You don't have to switch between healing and DPS mode either like Mercy. Just jump in and start shooting things. His damage output isn't fantastic and it can be really hard to land some shots in, but a few headshots here and there can go a long way. Oh, and like I said before, knocking enemies into holes is one of the most satisfying things you can do in Overwatch, and with Lucio's Soundwave ability you can grab some awesome multi-kills this way. Even though Lucio's healing is quite slow, his Amp It Up ability works excellent at bringing a tank's health back up, or getting your entire team back in the game. Or you can use his incredible ult and stop the whole team from dying for a few seconds, giving you a huge advantage. And one thing I really take for granted with Lucio is his wall ride ability. I'll have to play with him more and find a way to really take advantage of this.
Oh, let's break it! Damn!
I've got you in my sights.
Your security is my only concern.
When it comes to dealing damage as a tank, ERISA isn't my strongest, but she is incredibly useful when it comes to holding objectives. Her protective barrier is one of the best defensive abilities in the game with 900 health and only has an 8-second cooldown. Most of the time when your barrier has been destroyed, you're already ready to fire out a new one. Combining this with a Bastion and a Torbjrn turret is the best and fastest way to cook up lots of salt. Her halt ability is so much more effective than it first lets on. Of course, it can stop the enemy for a few seconds so that you or your teammates can lay on some fire, but it can also drag enemies into holes or pull them off of their vantage points. It's a really fun ability to mess around with. Then there's Fortify, which can stop so many abilities in their tracks. Charge, Sleep Dart, Graviton Surge, Soundwave, Steel Trap, etc, etc. The main thing I don't like about ERISA is how slow her primary fire is, but at the same time that makes it feel all the better when you get in a bunch of headshots.
Cease your resistance.
Heroes never die.
You have made an error in judgment.
I sucked at Hanzo when I first played him. I've never really been that great at using bows in action games, and it was the same with Hanzo. It was just really hard to hit enemies with him compared to Widowmaker. But once I finally got the speed and trajectory of his arrows down, he becomes a whole new character. Calling him a sniper isn't entirely the truth. He feels much more effective at mid to close range, especially with his storm arrow ability, which I love to use to burn down tanks or shields, or to just teach those sneaky flankers a lesson. He can be used effectively as a sniper though. Fire a quick sonic arrow to spy out that crafty Widowmaker and then pop her head right off. And what about those kills that you get during a lunge? Yep, those are some yummy kills. When I first started playing Overwatch, I thought his ult seemed incredibly OP, but man, his is one of the ults that I am the worst with. I end up just using it now as more of a distraction. I can't get kills with it to save my life. But when I'm having a good game as Hanzo anyway, it's not really a problem at all.
This is happening.
The latest hero to be put into Overwatch, Hammond, aka Wrecking Ball. And let me tell ya, this ball was made for wrecking. In the short time I've had with Wrecking Ball, I've managed to pull off some really crazy stuff. My favourite moment was as soon as the attack commenced on Moira. I rolled straight towards the objective, passing through the enemy team. Then I latched onto the belt and just swung around in circles. I managed to knock a Zarya off of the map, crushed a Mercy and kept smacking a Sombra so she couldn't hack me. I swung around for a good while until my whole team arrived and we claimed the objective. Wrecking Ball seems capable of so much stuff and I feel like playing him requires a lot of improvisation. But it's so fun to pull off some crazy tricks like latching onto the wall to save yourself from a fall, or completely dominating an objective with your mines. His projectile weapons are a bit dull, but he's a tank, and he really feels like a tank. Maybe his greatest weakness is his speed because you can end up leaving your team behind and getting destroyed, but on the contrary, it's easy to escape a situation. Wrecking Ball has the potential to go higher on my list when I play him more and more, but for now, 15 feels like a good spot.
Hey, chill out.
Mei is a cool hero. Get it? Because she shoots frost? I don't see Mei in the battlefield as often as I see most other heroes, which I find kinda strange because I usually do really well as Mei. When you play as Reaper or Tracer and you catch someone off guard, you still have to aim to kill them. With Mei, it's simply a case of point and spray. Once they're frozen, get that sweet icicle headshot. She's pretty useful from mid to long range too. You can chuck in some suppressive fire with her icicles and even sneak in a headshot or two. Both of her cooldowns are really useful too. You can completely block openings with her ice wall or block an enemy's exit, trapping them or separating a tank from its healer. She can even self-heal with her cryo freeze, which I also like to use to block the more vulnerable heroes. Her blizzard ult is extremely powerful and useful for both attacking and defending. It can trap multiple opponents and make it very hard to escape, allowing your team to completely wail on the enemy team. I really like Mei, but there are 13 heroes that I like a bit more.
Performance is about to begin.
I love playing as snipers in first-person shooter games, and I really like playing as Widowmaker in Overwatch. I don't pick her all that much because I tend to avoid doubling up on snipers, but when I do play as her, it's usually a good time. Like Bastion, she's a bit of a one-trick pony, but playing well as her takes a lot of skill. There isn't really much of a better feeling in Overwatch than going on fire, just by simply being a good sniper and racking up the headshots. What sets Widowmaker apart from snipers in this game and other games is her grappling hook. Not only can you use it to quickly get to a vantage point, but you can also use it to quickly escape if a pesky Winston or McCree is giving you a hard time. It makes her a pretty mobile sniper and one that isn't always locked down. She's a great hero, but if you're playing against the good Widowmaker, the party is over.
No one can hide from the hunters.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
So when I first started playing Overwatch, I asked my friends, who's the worst hero? I want to play as them. And their response was, probably Junkrat. So I started playing as him, and I don't have a clue what they were talking about. Junkrat was a contender for my most favourite hero at one point in time. The Overwatch wiki doesn't call him an explosives obsessed freak for nothing. He can output some serious damage from his primary weapon alone, let alone add in his concussion mine into the mix. Equipped with 2 concussion mines, Junkrat can seriously burn down some health. It feels so good to just lob a mine at someone's face and blow it up there and then. Or you can chuck down a steel trap along with a concussion mine and take out most support and damage heroes in one fell swoop. Junkrat also gets a huge advantage for getting the only weapon in the game that fires in an arc and can curve around corners. My friends must be crazy because Junkrat is an excellent hero. Not one of my most favourites anymore, but I still do love this deranged psychopath.
Get down. Give me 20.
Boom, shield your fellow teammate. Boom, shield yourself. Run in, build up energy, and annihilate some mother rushers. Here's the thing about Zarya. She used to be my absolute least favourite hero. A friend of mine who works for a game store said I should buy a random Overwatch figure box, and I said no because I'll end up getting Zarya. Nowadays, I hope I get Zarya. I love this big beefy beauty. At first, I didn't actually know that her particle barriers built up energy that powered up your particle cannon. That's exactly what makes her so good. The meter on the screen both measures how much energy you have and how much excitement. When I get to 100 energy, maximum levels of dopamine hit my brain and I just cause massive destruction, especially when I have a Graviton Surge ready, which is potentially the best tank ult. Combine it with Death Blossom, Dragon Strike, Coalescence or pretty much any high damage dealing ult, and you can easily capture the whole objective there and then. I'm sorry I ever doubted you, Zarya. You're the best. Well, one of the best. Well, close to the top 10 at least.
Огонь по готовности.
I will put you in your place.
The first draft of this list had Symmetra right near the bottom. She was either above or below Torbjrn, but then she had a complete rework and she is so much more fun to play as now. I don't even know why she was in the support category before. She works much better as a damage dealer. She's great on defense because you can throw some speed slowing turrets down to completely mess up the enemy's entrance, or on attack you can lob the turrets behind the enemy, either distracting them or outright killing them. Then there's the teleport ability, which can seriously increase your team's spatial opportunities. There's so much more that the teleporter can do than that though. You can completely mess up the enemy team by throwing turrets through the teleporter, or a Reinhardt can charge through it. Better than that, a Deva can launch her mech through it during a self-destruct. It's pretty crazy. Symmetra's usefulness doesn't just come from her abilities though. The damage output of her weapon is pretty good. If you can't get her primary weapon charged up, her secondary fire is still very good. I'm really happy with how Symmetra has come round, and I now play her so much more than I did in the past.
Here comes a new challenger.
I mentioned that Junkrat was one of my favourite heroes when I first started playing. Well, Deva was my favourite hero when I started out. The fact that she's still alive after her mech explodes is something that I really dig about her. Even if I'm playing as someone like Roadhog, Wrecking Ball or Zarya, I still like to tiptoe around moving in and out of the enemy to preserve some health. But with Deva, you're still alive after you sort of die, so I like just flying in there and causing some damage. Even when I do blow up and become Little Deva, I still sometimes push the enemy because I'm like, what have I got to lose at this point? And it often works out where I can recover into Big Deva. Her boosters make her amazing at chasing an opponent down who's trying to flee. When I play as Deva, I'm constantly on the move and trying to push the enemy, and that's why she's so thrilling to play. That, and the insane amount of kills that you can get from a single self-destruct. Alas, she isn't my favourite hero anymore. Not really because I like her any less, more so that I've just grown to like this next lot of heroes more.
Leave this to an expert.
That really annoying character that immediately shuts down ults. Yup, that's Brigitta, and I love her for it. Brigitta is a healer by day and a damage dealer by, well, day too. It's hard to get her to deal out high healing numbers like other healers can, since you really have to be in the action to get your passive healing out, but I wouldn't count out her repair pack ability. Every 6 seconds she gets the opportunity to get most that aren't tanks close to full health. Her passive healing is just the icing on the cake, especially since it can come at the same time as dealing a lot of damage. Each hit she deals with her rocket flout isn't enormous, but following up a shield bash with a few hits can be really devastating. If you can't quite finish the enemy off, you can launch her incredibly long wind shot at them, or you can just bop them off the cliffs with it. That works too. You can also quickly improvise with her shield and save some teammates from a Deva ultimate or something. Brigitta's ult may not save your team as quickly as Zenyatta's or Lucio's, but the armor that it can provide on top of your health is a massive amount that can really make a difference. I was never the biggest melee user in Overwatch before Brigitta, but her versatility makes her a melee hero that I can really get on board with.
Watch and learn.
Pointing and shooting has never been harder than when you're playing as McCree. Unlike most other heroes, his weapon isn't automatic, so when you're playing from mid to long range, you've got to have a decent amount of skill to land those shots. That's not to say that McCree isn't good from up close. His flashbang can be just as annoying to the enemy as Brigitta's shield bash, and as a result, just as satisfying for you. Fan the Hammer is such a fun ability. The flashbang fan the hammer combo is where it's at, or the flashbang headshot combo. Either one is good for me. Even with the damage drop off, McCree's bullets still deal quite a bit of damage, and they're fairly quick too. I find that he's really good at taking care of enemies on low health. If an enemy's running away on his last breath, a quick turn and pop of the Peacekeeper will sort that out. I also like to get up close to tanks and fan the hammer a few times. It can burn a tank down in a couple of seconds. Here's the thing about his Deadeye ult. I don't pretend to know exactly how it works, but I do know that I love sneaking around the enemy team and popping them all in the head at once.
I'm an army of one.
Okay, so Soldier 76 was fairly low down on the list at first, around the same place as Tracer, Reaper and all that. That's because, well, he's fairly generic. For a game that has so many different wacky characters and weapons, he's just a soldier with an assault rifle, a rocket launcher and a sprint ability. I still do think he's generic, that hasn't changed. But what has changed is the more that I played Soldier 76, the better I got with him. And I realised just how much fun I have playing him. The quick fire rate of his heavy pulse rifle and the quick reload time makes it so that he can constantly be attacking. I often like to just mash the right click while I'm firing so that as soon as my Helix rocket is ready, I can fire it off and obliterate my foes. He feels like he's really built to take down anyone. Tanks, supports, Faras. The only characters I'd say he's weak against are snipers and maybe Bastion. But that's a pretty good success rate. His biotic field ability shouldn't be overlooked either. A 200 health healing ability every 15 seconds is really helpful to you and your teammates. Soldier 76 doesn't stand out like the other heroes, but when I'm having this much fun with a hero, I've got to put them high up on the list. And that ult. Combine his ult with an Ana or an ERISA ult, or a Mercy, and it is over. Confession time. Despite how much I love Overwatch, it's the only Blizzard game I've ever played. I know, that's blasphemy, but I can't live this lie any longer, I have to confess. That includes World of Warcraft. The MMORPG that I've spent a lot of time playing is Final Fantasy XIV, and in that game, healers are expected to jump between healing and DPSing. That's probably why I really like heroes like Zenyatta. He's got some decent healing abilities, especially that unstoppable ult, but he's also able to get a word in damage wise. You don't have to constantly be thinking about healing because his Orb of Harmony does the healing for you in the background. That gives you time to throw out an Orb of Discord and start getting in some damage yourself. His orbs are slow and hard to aim, but if you use his Orb Volley, you're bound to get in a hit or two. You can viably use his Orb Volley to snipe the snipers. And I don't know, it just feels easier to get headshots as Zenyatta than any other hero. Zenyatta is a healer, and I've spent most of my time talking about how fun it is DPSing as him. Coming from Final Fantasy XIV, that's my kind of healer.
Experience tranquility.
Sometimes when I play Sombra, I don't get a lot of kills in, and that's just fine because I still have a ton of fun playing as her, and I know that I'm always helping my team out. I really wouldn't question if she was a support hero. Her hack is so freaking useful for your team. It can completely shut down how the enemy is operating. If everyone's gathered around a Reinhardt, boop him and he can't use his shield. Roadhog keeps healing? Give him a boop. Tracer keeps blinking? Boop. Bastion being Bastion? Boop. Sniper no sniping? Boop. Heroes like Genji, Doomfist, and even an enemy Sombra, who rely heavily on their abilities, can be completely helpless after a hack. And her ability to hack health packs shouldn't be taken for granted. You can set up a health pack camp where Sombra never dies. Hacking health packs nearer the enemy's side can also help out a lot. But her translocator can be used for more than just warp into health packs. You can use it mid-fight to wrap around the enemy and mess them up, which is a lot of fun. And then there's her passive ability Opportunist, which makes it really easy for her to pick off her prey. Sometimes I do get a lot of kills with Sombra, and those games, well, they're just dandy. Roadhog just doesn't die. He doesn't. With 600 health and his Take a Breather ability that heals 300 health with an 8-second cooldown, how could he ever die? I've only ever gotten 5 gold medals as 2 heroes, and Roadhog is one of them. Not only does he not die, but for a tank he can deal so much damage. It should be illegal. It's really hard to damage enemies with his slow scrap gun. That's where his chain hook comes into play. If you use it right, it's almost a guaranteed death for enemies with 200 health or less. Hook, headshot, melee, dead. And this cooldown only has 8 seconds too. Granted, I don't get a whole lot of kills without the chain hook, but I've gotten pretty good at aiming the chain hook and getting kills with it. You can use his chain hook to kill tanks by dragging them into a hole, and let me tell you, that feeling when you do, oh, it's something. Then there's his ult, which I didn't like at first, but it grew on me. I either use it to knock a bunch of enemies down a hole, or use it to juggle tanks or something. I love using it against a charging Reinhardt. He doesn't know what hit him. So yeah, Roadhog, he's an unbeatable beast with infinite health and good damage potential. He's one of the heroes that I am the best with, and I really enjoy playing as him.
Justice delivered.
Like the damage of her biotic rifle, Ana grew on me over time, like a lot. She's my most played hero, even more than number 1. I like to think that I'm decent as Ana, but I don't think I'm that good. I'm certainly better as characters like Roadhog, Soldier 76 and my number 1. who you've probably worked out by now by process of elimination, but let's keep the illusion going. I think I pick Ana so much because I want to be really good as her, and when I do well as her, it feels so satisfying. She's basically in healing and DPS mode all of the time. Just point and shoot at anyone, your teammates to heal them and the enemy team to do damage. The damage from her sniper rifle isn't as much as Widowmaker's, and the damage over time effect isn't as good as straight up damage, but I just love the ticks of your opponent's health sapping away. Especially when you nail a few shots in a row on a Fara or Widowmaker or something, and see all of their health just drain away. Her biotic grenade ability is really something special. I've used it many times to save a few teammates at the last second, or to quickly kill an escaping enemy on low health, or to help kill the unkillable Roadhog. It's such a great ability, maybe only matched by her sleep dart. The sleep dart is great for a number of things. Number 1, shutting down ults. Number 2, leaving an annoying enemy unconscious and out of the fight for a while. Number 3, stopping an enemy so that your teammates can bombard them. Number 4, halting a damage dealer or support hero so that you can use a rifle and grenade combo attack to pretty much guarantee a kill. The only thing I'm not too hot on with Ana is her ultimate nano boost. I'm not saying that it's not useful, it certainly is. I just end up always holding it for too long. Like I said before though, I just need to get better with her, and I will continue to play her until I do.
You're powered up. Get in there. This is to my liking.
A what? Moira? Who saw that coming for the last minute or so? Moira holds a special place in my heart because she was the very first new hero that was released after I picked up Overwatch for the first time. I watched the trailer a bunch of times. A new healer who could spray out concentrated healing, sap enemies' health, and throw out bouncy orbs to either heal allies or damage opponents. And that ult coalescence looked insane. Even though I'm always the kind of person who likes to be a bit of a jack of all trades, I think it's clear what demographic of heroes I like the most. Mostly characters that can multitask, especially with some sort of way to heal, and Moira is just that. With a different click of the mouse, Moira is either healing or attacking, and she's not a jack of all trades, she's a master of everything. The raw healing power of her biotic grasp is close to Mercy's. Couple this with the amount of healing that you can get out of her biotic orb ability, and you've got some serious healing numbers going on. Sure, her grasp depletes energy which has to be refilled, but that's just inviting you to attack your foes, which she's also great at. The range of the biotic grasp's attack is excellent, and the damage isn't bad either. If an enemy is escaping, she's great at chasing with her fade ability, and if you need to dispose of foes quickly, you can use the decay effect of her biotic orb at the same time as her grasp. She's great at healing from up close, healing from range, attacking from up close, attacking at range, and her fade makes it easy to get in and out of fights. She's the only character besides Roadhog that I've gotten 5 gold medals with multiple times. Her versatility is just phenomenal. And I haven't even mentioned her ult yet. Coalescence can knock out some huge damage and healing numbers, and the beam travels through everything. I'm not the kind of person to pick a main out of a roster of characters, but if I had a Hellfire shotgun to my head and I had to pick one, it would have to be Moira.
Surrender to my will.
Thanks everyone so much for watching, and as always, have fun playing video games.